In this video, we are doing a complete deep dive into Apollo Microsystems, a company that could be a defense stock many investors have completely missed. We'll explain exactly why this company is so important for India's safety, look at its fast growth and money, and talk about the risks you should know before thinking about investing. If you're looking for the next big thing in the Indian market, keep watching. We are going deep into Apollo Microsystems and why it could be a key stock in India's defense industry. The government is now spending more money on electronics and guidance systems than on the actual bodies of planes and missiles. This change in spending has created a special opportunity that's hard for new companies to get into, and only a few Indian firms can do the job. We are talking about building electronics that can handle radiation, shaking, and work perfectly even after being stored in a hot steel box for months. This is extreme engineering. Apollo Microsystems saw this opportunity early and today supplies most of the top-level defense electronics in India. This isn't just talk. Without Apollo's circuit boards, there would be no upgrades for the BrahMos missile and no precision for the Akash NG missile system. In many government deals for missile electronics, Apollo is either the main supplier or a key technology partner, which shows how important they are to India's defense setup.
So how did one company become so necessary? The journey began in 1994 when founder Karunakar Reddy started with just 4 lakh rupees in a rented garage, making electronic parts for DRDO labs. His first big success came when the Navy needed a special firing system for its China torpedo. Instead of buying imported parts that cost 22 lakh rupees each, Apollo figured out how to build the system themselves and delivered it in just 11 months for only 8 lakh rupees. When you offer that kind of value, news travels fast in the small world of Indian defense. By 2003, they were getting repeat orders, and by 2007, they were helping design parts for the Nag missile. However, two smart business moves gave them a strong advantage that's hard for others to beat. They invested in building their own facilities to test for electronic interference, shock, and extreme temperatures. This was a huge deal for clients, saving them up to 6 months of waiting for a spot at other labs, a big help for defense projects that have tight deadlines. They purposely made less profit on their first contracts to own the original design blueprint. This is very important. Once DRDO approved Apollo's design, any future replacement part had to be an exact copy, basically blocking competitors and making Apollo the only company that could supply that part for its entire life. The result? A company whose yearly sales jumped from about 40 crore rupees in 2016 to an amazing 562 crore rupees in 2025. This powerful growth story should get any investor's attention.
Let's look at 3 current defense projects where Apollo's technology cannot be replaced, showing how this affects their business. A. The Smart Supersonic Torpedo. Apollo makes the digital homing head, the brain that guides the torpedo to its target, and the fiber optic guidance system. It's not just one part, it's like the weapon's entire nervous system. B. The Nirbhay cruise missile. This missile uses a special part that lets it fly very low to avoid being seen by radar. That part is powered by Apollo's VPX-300 computer. In a smart move, the same computer board is now being used for the version of the missile launched from the air, saving 18 months of retesting. C. The LCA Tejas Mk-1A fighter jet. The main computer that combines information from radar, navigation, and other sensors onto one screen is also made by Apollo. In all these vital projects, the main contractor, like DRDO, BEL, or Hull, owns the software, but the hardware, the actual brain it runs on, is made by Apollo. This is their key role. This is also why a recent export order of $13.37 million to a Southeast Asian navy is so important. As other countries start using systems with Apollo's hardware, India gains influence for future sales of spare parts and upgrades, turning one-time sales into a long-lasting stream of income with high profits.
Now let's talk about the financials, because the numbers are what really matter to investors. Apollo's results for the first quarter of fiscal year 2026 were better than expected. Sales grew by 46% and profits more than doubled. Their profit margin reached an impressive 31%, which is a big jump from the year before. This performance was because of 2 key strategies: a change in what they sell. Instead of just selling single circuit boards, the company is now getting contracts for complete systems. Think of it as selling the entire brain, not just one chip, which naturally earns more profit and makes customers rely on them more. Using export bonuses. The government's plan to encourage defense exports gives a 20% bonus on the value of exports, which adds directly to Apollo's income. The company's leaders are confidently predicting 45 to 50% growth each year for the next 2 years. Can they do it? Their current order book gives a good idea of how much money they will make in the future. Also, government programs for semiconductors and a new facility in Hyderabad reduce earlier risks of not getting enough computer chips. Even if sales growth slows to around 30%, just the increase in profit margins could possibly double their earnings in 2 years. This is the math that big investment firms are doing, which helps explain why the stock price has gone up so much this year.
However, every investment has risks. To get a fair picture, investors need to think about these points. First, depending too much on one customer. A large part of their sales comes from DRDO, India's Defense Research Agency. While DRDO is a dependable client, any sudden change in government policy or delays in payments could hurt Apollo's finances. Second, slow payments. It takes Apollo about 167 days to get paid for their work. While this is common in the defense industry, this ties up a lot of their cash. For example, the company generated only a small part of its profit as free cash last year, something investors need to watch. Third, technology risk. Companies in the West are always making better technology. If Apollo doesn't update its products by 2027, they risk being left out of future deals. They are in a technology race they have to win. Fourth, global and legal risks. There could be new international rules on certain types of parts that are hardened against radiation. Tricky global situations could also create unexpected problems for Apollo supplies or its plans to sell to other countries. Finally, valuation risk. The stock price is high, which means investors expect the company to do everything perfectly. Any big problem, like a major project failure or a plane with its technology being grounded, could cause the stock price to drop quickly. A lot is on the line.
If this detailed video is helping you with your investment research and you've learned something new about a key Indian company, please hit the like button. It helps more investors find this video. Also leave a comment. What other hidden company should we look at next? Why should an investor care about Apollo Microsystems beyond its stock price? Because its story is connected to India's goal to become self-reliant and secure. Today, a large part of India's defense electronics are still imported. The government has a clear goal to lower this dependence by 2030. Every contract Apollo wins is a step towards that goal. This has a strategic benefit. When our missiles are powered by Indian technology, software can be updated in days, not weeks, so we don't have to wait for another country's permission during a crisis. This speed is a huge military advantage. More importantly, as Apollo moves from being a parts supplier to a full systems designer, it is helping create a whole network of over 100 smaller companies with special skills. This builds a strong industrial base that gives India more strength, especially if global supplies are cut off. Simply put, Apollo's growth is not just a good business story. It's a sign of how ready India is to handle a long conflict without needing foreign parts. That is a strong positive trend for any long-term investor. So, what's the long-term plan? The CEO, Karunakar Reddy, has laid out a plan based on 3 main areas of growth. Increase exports to 30% of total sales by targeting countries and regions like Southeast Asia that already use Indian missile technology, creating an easy market for them to grow into. Buy a European software company to get special tools that can write software code in automatically. This could cut down development time by up to 40%, giving them a massive advantage in getting products to market quickly. Launch their own made-in-India power management chip that is hardened against radiation. This would be a first for a private Indian company and a huge step towards being truly independent in technology. If this plan works, experts believe Apollo could realistically pass 1500 crore in sales by 2028, keeping profit margins above 28%. The big picture is that India could have its own world-class defense electronics company, similar to China's CETC or Israel's Elbit Systems.
If they succeed, Apollo will change from a little-known company into a famous name for Indian investors, much like Bell or Hindustan Aeronautics. So the next time you see a missile launch in the news, remember this. The real magic is happening inside a small, very important box that was probably built by Apollo Microsystems. It was a hidden opportunity, but now you know the full story. Share this video with a friend who is looking for the next big investment idea. And if you want more detailed videos on India's most important companies, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in the next one.